Can Jordan Love handle the pressure in Green Bay? And not just the metaphorical pressure, the literal pressure he's going to face as quarterback. Plus, is he going to lean on his running backs a little bit more? We look at trends from around the league with the Shanahan tree offenses to try and find some hints on where this offense might be going. All of that on today's show.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. And come check me out on Subtext. It is a new platform that we are launching that allows you to essentially communicate with me like we're texting. And we are. I responded to a couple people this morning, in fact. So thanks to everyone who's already signed up. And I'm really excited to use it this season to send exclusive content right to you guys. Thoughts. Yeah, basically going to text you during the games. Live. We love live around here. Speaking of live, we'll do it live. We'll have to. That's what Jordan Love is going to be up against. He's just going to have to learn on the fly. And the one thing I think that stands out among young quarterbacks that separates the good and the bad, or the good from the mediocre, is how they handle pressure. Jared Goff, in perfect circumstances, awesome. Arm talent. He can rip crossing routes, posts, sail routes. I mean, high level layered throws. If he's protected, he can do it. But a little pressure, and he's got a major problem. The Packers were able to pressure the Lions in their 2 games last year, and they did as good a job as any defense in the league did against that offense last year, because Jared Goff doesn't handle pressure well. Someone like Justin Fields, he's a terrific runner, but pressure, he invites it because he doesn't get the ball out in a hurry, and he tries to create a little too much, has bad pocket awareness, and then turns pressures into sacks. When you look at Jordan Love, we have a pretty small sample size of true live bullets, right? But in the one start, he was pressured. This is remarkable. He was pressured 19 times. 19 times in 39 dropbacks. So almost 40% of his dropbacks. Now, he didn't do great in those circumstances. Completed only 33% of his passes, 5 of 15. So he has to get better understanding where his answers are when pressure is coming. And until he proves that, until he shows, I can do this. If you blitz me, I'm going to make you pay. That was something that Aaron Rodgers early in his career, Joe Burrow early in his career, Patrick Mahomes early in his career, they proved. You blitz me, I'm going to torch you. It is blitz at your own peril. Well, Steve Spagnuolo said, I'm bringing the house at you, first-time NFL starter at Arrowhead in a primetime game. We're sending everything. And they did every manner of zero blitzes and overload blitzes and simulated pressures. I mean, Spags was in his bag in that game. And I don't think it is just coach speak when LaFleur says, I thought Jordan Love handled it well. He didn't knuckle under. He never gave in. He kept fighting. I think that's real. But more importantly, Pro Football Focus, they credit quarterbacks with pressures and sacks because, to at least some degree, sacks and pressures are quarterback stats. More on that in a second. But in that game, almost 50% of his dropbacks, he got pressured. 19 pressures. PFF did not ding him with a single pressure on him. Now, it gets difficult to truly parse credit pre-snap. So, okay, is Jordan Love getting the protection set the proper way? That is a question that I don't think we can answer just from the tape, especially when you have a blown protection. It's like, okay, was it the right protection and you just blew it? Or did you not get the protection set? Or what exactly happened? Some of that like minutia process stuff, we're only going to know by being in the coach's room. We have some understanding of just how basic protections work. So we try and do our best here. If you go back and watch that Chiefs game, Jordan Love is getting to his back foot and there's someone in his face already because Royce Newman got beat cold. There was no David Bakhtiari in that game. So you've got backups. You've got guys who are now preferred backups, even though Royce Newman was the preferred starter that year. And it was really a bad situation. In fact, not even all of the pressures were attributed to offensive line in the PFF charting. Some were just attributed to numbers because Spags sent more than they could block. And there's just nothing you can do about that except get the ball out. Well, if you're just on your back foot and all of a sudden someone is there, or even before you get, there are some reps you go back and watch, like Love is getting the snap, he's in his drop, and already someone is one clean off the line of scrimmage. That's going to be pretty hard to do anything about if you're a quarterback. If you watch Jordan Love, though, and Justice Mosqueda put out a clip of every Jordan Love throw, and if you watch it, I think it was every NFL, like actual regular season throw. If you watch it, everything is in rhythm. Everything is back foot ball out. And he can create, he can extend plays, but he, I think, has really emphasized this idea of playing in rhythm. And that's going to be essential for the Packers to mitigate the effects that pressure can have. Warren Sharp tweeted out this stat: the highest percentage of passes thrown under pressure. If you look at the bottom of this list, it's not guys who play exclusively behind really good offensive lines. Joe Burrow is third from the bottom with Aaron Rodgers, both at 27%. Joe Burrow does not have a good pass protecting offensive line. Kyler Murray at 27%. The Cardinals do not have a good pass protecting offensive line. Tua Tagovailoa, 26%. The Dolphins have offensive line problems. And then Tom Brady at 20%, he was just in old mad mode. I'm not trying to get hit. Backstep ball out. He's doing that thing, which worked for him in 21. They won a Super Bowl. Or in 20, they won the Super Bowl. 21, they go to the playoffs. It was even more pronounced in 21, where he's like, his ability to create down the field quickly is unlike anything we've ever seen. But if you look at the bottom half of this list, it's a lot of Shanahan tree guys. It's Matthew Stafford. It's Baker Mayfield. It's Jared Goff. It's Mac Jones. They're Patriots, but they were running some Shanahan stuff. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. It's Rodgers. It's Burrow. It's Tua. Those are Shanahan tree coaches. And there are so many things built into this offense. Okay, RPO glance, post-snap RPO. That's balls right out. Or it's RPO screen. That's balls right out. This offense is going to be a lot of quick game, like almost immediate, and then the play action deep shots. And one of the things that when I talk about playing in rhythm and on time, there's two things there. One is chemistry with your receivers. Everyone's got to be on the same page. The timing of it, that all has to be set. But then there is Jordan Love understanding quickly where the ball needs to go. It is, okay, I understand that we're high-lowing this corner. And if he sinks, I have the underneath. And if he stays up, I've got the corner in behind him. Those kinds of processing traits are essential. So you need to know where the ball is going to go. And I think part of the knowing where the ball is going and then getting there is also being confident. You have to know that you know and feel confident. Okay, I know when the corner plays this way that the ball is going here, and that allows me to get to my back foot and rip that throw in. Jordan Love, we saw that against Philly. I think that was the biggest thing to me is he played on time that whole game. And yeah, they ran a lot of the same concepts, but then Philly had answers. Okay, you're going to run this concept again? We're going to take away what you just threw. Okay? Here's the next thing. So Jordan Love has those answers. It's built into the offense. Jordan Love has shown he's not going to create additional pressure for himself. He is not going to do the defense a favor by fading into pressure, by having bad pocket awareness and understanding, okay, I need to move off my spot and make a throw. He's not going to do that. And I think that is a critical piece here for the Packers as they move forward. He has to be able to handle pressure when they throw it at him, because that Chiefs game is going to be the blueprint until further notice. The Vikings with Brian Flores, they are going to blitz the daylights out of Jordan Love. Does he have answers? Does Matt LaFleur and company, did they have answers? Because Matt LaFleur admitted, we didn't do a great job. We didn't have great answers. We didn't get to our answers fast enough. And so that's something that they're going to have to work on as well. There's another way that you can deal with pressure, and it is having your outlets. I want to talk about those outlets coming up here in just a second on Locked On Packers. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So with draft prep underway for the upcoming season, let's see who Vinny has picked out on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. The turn. It's always a pivot point in your draft. And if you are someone who is on the turn, you can set yourself up for success. So why not go 1-2 running backs, especially if people are falling in love with Justin Jefferson? You can grab Jonathan Taylor and Nick Chubb on the turn. If Nick Chubb falls that far, this is a no-brainer. And Jonathan Taylor, his value might be down a little bit because of the injuries last year. And if he is, take advantage. They are both set to dominate their workloads in their respective towns. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. It's the same with your vehicle. With eBay Guaranteed Fit and over 122 million parts and accessories for your vehicle right at your fingertips, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Air filters, brakes, batteries, tail lights, alternators, shocks, struts, you name it, eBay Motors has it. And they'll make sure it's the right fit for your car. Because eBay Guaranteed Fit helps you understand exactly what part you need for your vehicle the first time. So go forth, switch gears, crank the AC, and say goodbye to sweating if your ride needs a little fixing up. Because now, you know you'll always be set up for success from the get-go with eBay Guaranteed Fit. Everything your vehicle is calling for is just a click away. For the parts and accessories that fit your vehicle, just look for the green check. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, and exclusions do apply. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen every day. Every dayers tomorrow on the show, an Aaron Rodgers signature series with a man who was in the front office when the Packers drafted him, Andrew Brandt, on the program tomorrow for an Aaron Rodgers signature series. So Sam Hoppin at Fantasy Pros, Sam also happens to be a Packers fan. He put together a model to try and figure out how much a quarterback impacts how often running backs are getting the ball. And this is particularly useful for us with Jordan Love because what happens a lot is young quarterbacks, they get a little flustered and they don't want to read out 1 to 2 to 3. And they don't want to sit back there with the bodies flying around them and wait for things to develop. And so they get a little antsy and they dump the ball off. Now, Aaron Rodgers, generally in his career, has had the opposite problem. All he wants to do is push. Push, push, push. I mean, think back to 2018. And the biggest criticism of Aaron Rodgers was he refused to dump it off, refused to hit his checkdowns. It was always, I'm going to push deep shot, deep shot, deep shot. And there were some times last year, I think, that he fell back into those habits. And in fact, if you look at this model, Aaron Rodgers, 5th least likely to throw to a running back, basically. He created negative running back targets over expected. I know that this seems like a very niche stat, but I think it's useful to understand the propensity to throw to running backs and how much do you rely on it? How much is it going to change? Because I think there's this perception that the Packers are going to have to lean more on these running backs. They already got a lot of targets last year. Aaron Jones was second on the team in targets last season. So they can only be so much more involved in your offense. And I think the Packers have more answers this year. You have Luke Musgrave, who the Packers think is the real deal. You've got Tucker Kraft. You've got Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs now in year 2. You add Jaden Reed, 2nd round pick. That's real pedigree. So now you have expectations for these other players. It's not, well, what are we going to get from Big Bob Tonyan? What are we going to get from Randall Cobb week to week? We know Mercedes Lewis, not the threat in the passing game that a younger, more athletic player might be. And this is no shade at Mercedes Lewis. When you look at the top players in targeting their running backs, Jimmy Garoppolo right at the top. Shanahan. You've got Desmond Ridder right at the top. That's Arthur Smith. Matthew Stafford right at the top. Sean McVay. Brock Purdy. Kyle Shanahan. Kirk Cousins. Joe Burrow. And Jared Goff. Tua Tagovailoa. All there at the top of this list. They're among the only quarterbacks that are still throwing the ball to running backs more often than you would expect. Now, does that mean that the Packers are going to do that with Jordan Love? I think that there's still going to be plenty of designed parts of the running back arsenal here in the passing game. It is worth pointing out, though, that most running back targets would be better served to receivers or tight ends. That's just what the numbers, what the data shows us. And this actually makes a lot of sense if you think about how most running backs are getting their targets. It's swing passes, it's screen passes, it's dump offs in the middle of the field, your checkdowns. They all happen within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage, and some of them are behind the line of scrimmage, swing routes, screen passes, those kinds of things. So you're just not going to create a lot of value from those kinds of plays. Now, it's better to get something. It's better to get 3 or 4 yards on a check down than nothing on an incompletion. That's totally true. But the value of finding a receiver or finding a tight end, because the ADOT is just going to be so much bigger, that's a big difference. And so generally speaking, I don't think this idea of like, let's funnel the passing game through a running back is a great idea. Unless you're Kyle Shanahan and it's Christian McCaffrey and you have Jimmy Garoppolo and all you want to do is throw these little angle routes and dump offs and you a scheme lord and that's gonna create opportunities for you. I would like to see more opportunities with Aaron Jones to get the ball catching and running in space. Go back to 2020, they killed teams on mesh and Aaron Jones was a big reason why. Get him the ball in space. Well, Tampa figured out a great way to counter that, and all of a sudden mesh is like, because teams are running so much more zone, mesh has almost been taken out of the NFL vernacular. Not totally, but teams have better answers for it. But can you find opportunities for Aaron Jones to get the ball in space down the field? Can you use him vertically like you did back in 2019? This is something that we've seen. This is not a hypothetical. We've seen it. We have evidence of Aaron Jones playing exactly the way that I am envisioning right now. And then what is A.J. Dillon going to give you? I'm going to talk about this subtle thing that the Chiefs have been doing, and the Packers have started to adopt schematically to adjust to Fangio schemes. Well, the running backs play a really big part in that, whether it's just from motion or just a numbers game. It also allows you to run from this formation. We're going to get to it. I don't think the Packers need to involve the running backs in the passing game more. I don't think they will. But what I do think would be good for this offense is to use a more targeted approach in the way that these running backs are being used. You go back to 2019, there were some plays where I can see them in my mind's eye. Play action shot play. The shot play is not there, and your outlet is your jet motion player. And so you've cleared out the side on these big play action shot plays, and rather than throwing it to a running back in the middle of the field where you've got a lot of bodies, you throw it to the sideline to a receiver who can then go make a play. Now, what if your jet motion guy is Aaron Jones? What if your jet motion guy is Jaden Reed, who's got juice after the catch? What if your jet motion guy is Christian Watson? Now, he might draw too much attention for that to really work, but I love the idea of having it be Jaden Reed, Samori Toure. Give those guys a chance to catch and run. I think that is a really interesting thing, that a wrinkle that they might be able to add in here as part of their 2023 offense. All right, I want to talk about this other wrinkle that I'm really excited about, and we're going to do that in just a second here on Locked On Packers. When Matt LaFleur said he was borrowing from the Chiefs, I was really fascinated by that. And I'm wondering, okay, is that because of Mahomes or what is that? Is it because of the tight ends? Are they trying to find a way to get Luke Musgrave free and Tucker Kraft free? And I'm sure that that's all part of this. But then Wendell Ferreira wrote this great piece for Zone Coverage about quads and really the 1-4 set. One receiver to one side and 4 to the opposite side of the formation. And what this does, especially against these Fangio defenses, is it creates a numbers problem. It's sort of like the old West Coast when you'd run these flood concepts where you could not get enough defensive bodies in a position to defend all the offensive pass catchers. And so you can isolate a receiver on the backside, and you've got now 4 to the other side. And for the Packers, that meant Devontae Adams, you're almost guaranteeing him a one-on-one because the safety has to help to the quad side. And so if you're going to have then the safety to the single receiver side, he's got to play over the top, but he's got to play deep because now you have to protect that deep half. It is a really interesting little wrinkle on the Packers. The way that they've used it is they have used it out of 21, or at least out of 2-back sets. We saw them use it against Kansas City, with Randall Cobb and Aaron Jones in the backfield, and you motion Randall Cobb out. And it's a variation on the RPO that they were running against the Rams. Hello, Fangio tree. In the playoffs, where you get actually trips to one side, and now you can either hand the ball to A.J. Dillon, or you've got a running back in the swing motion. You can throw him that little swing screen, and you can outflank the defense. This is a really cool wrinkle that I think the Packers are going to use more, and it is more evidence to me that they are going to use spread and shotgun a lot in this offense. I think it has become clear, at least to me, that is the best way to attack these Fangio defenses. You have to spread them out. You have to put them in conflict. You have to use their rules against them. That was like essentially the entire point of the Play Caller series was McVay had to push his offense further because he was going up against Brandon Staley every day in practice. And Robert Saleh had to push his defense because he's going up against Kyle Shanahan every day in practice. You have to find these little answers. And then it's, I know that you know, but then you know that I know that you know, and then you know that I know that you know that I know. And it's back and forth on into infinity like that. But that's the beauty of the game. I think this is the next place we can take offenses. It's the next place you're going to see teams, the Chiefs, of course, out front. Not surprising. And what's great about it is if you cover the flats, and the Chiefs have taken advantage of teams saying, we think we can create a defensive advantage by leaving the flats a little open. and playing off. This is something the Packers do, that, 8 yards off the line of scrimmage, you want to throw to the flats, you can throw to the flats. Well, what do the Chiefs do every 4th and short? They roll Mahomes out and they throw the ball to Tyreek Hill. Now, okay, last year they didn't, but on those little speed rollouts, and because these teams are protecting deep and they're giving up the flat, that's free yardage. These formations allow you to do that. Plus, they allow you to isolate someone on the backside. So now, can you get Christian Watson? Can he become the guy who, one-on-one with any cornerback in the league, you trust to go win that matchup? That was Davante Adams. The Packers did it one-on-one with Jalen Ramsey. Go in on a slant, Davante. Not easy to do. Christian Watson has the speed, though, that you have to respect. What if on the trip side, with the running back to that side, now you run inside zone back the other way? Everyone's worried about it. Or you send the jet man, I guess it's that swing motion. There's different names for that kind of motion. I call it swing motion. You've got linebackers trying to adjust, and now you're running inside zone back the other way, essentially, back against the grain. Or why not put Jaden Reed, Luke Musgrave, and Christian Watson all on that trip side and go, hey, defenses, you got to cover all these guys down the field. You have to be really concerned about that. And now you can do something on the backside. There's just so many ways they can use these sets. And if you go back to 2021, they went to more 4 receiver sets. And what we saw was trips to one side, Davante locked on the backside. Now, you can't, without a guy like Davante Adams, just throw to that backside. You have to have some frontside concepts. But Aaron Rodgers loved to just say, I've got my one-on-one, I'm going to throw that. I think we're going to see more opportunities for Jordan Love to say, okay, here's the concept side. I'm going to read that out, and we're going to create all sorts of conflict for these defenses. And then, oh, by the way, on the backside, I've got this guy, Christian Watson, who has the potential to beat any corner you have out there. Let's see if he can become the nuanced route runner that Davante Adams was. I wouldn't hold my breath on that because no one is Davante Adams. Like, let's just be serious. But he has the high level movement skills to get open, simply because you have to worry about him being over the top on you. You have to worry about him just flat out running by you. And you have to defend the middle of the field against him, because if it's him versus space, he's going to win. He's going to win against you with space. If you give him an inside release and God forbid for you as a cornerback, it's a crossing route, you're toast. You just can't run with that guy. So I'm really interested to see how Matt LaFleur uses those sorts of defensive rules, but then also the matchups, the movement skills of Luke Musgrave, of Jaden Reed, of Christian Watson, of Aaron Jones. This is another opportunity. There's that RPO. Swing, you use that swing motion, throw the ball to Aaron Jones, you got blockers out front. So if you don't get your bodies to that overload side, so it's an easy read, an easy throw, and now you've got Aaron Jones on the move in space where he is incredibly dangerous. It's just, yes, it's a little football nerdy. I get it. It's hard to explain on podcast form, on YouTube. If you're watching, I have some graphics that I think help you see what I'm saying. So go check us out on YouTube, I guess is what I'm saying. But it's a wrinkle that I think you're going to start to see around the league. I think teams are going to start using it against the Packers because they come on that Fangio tree. And so they got to have answers. Now they started to play a little bit more cover 2 at the end of last year. And so you can't just take advantage of the boundaries in the same way. And maybe that is the next move. How do we live in too high and protect against these kinds of concepts? Well, you play cover 2. That creates its own set of issues, but then we'll deal with that as we do. This is like the cartoon where you plug one leak and another leak sprouts up, and then you go plug that one. Like, that's modern defense. And it creates a lot of fun for offenses and, man, a lot of headaches for defenses. All right, back tomorrow with Andrew Brandt to talk about Aaron Rodgers. I promise, once the season starts, the signature series are going to be over, but I wanted to get some of these in. And we may still have one here and there in training camp, just because there's some guests that if we get them and work it out schedule-wise, I can't not give them to you. So we're going to talk about all of that coming up on tomorrow's show, and then training camp set to open here any minute seemingly. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find Locked On Packers. And anytime you want to come hang out with us live on YouTube, you can do that. Plus, come hang out with us on Subtext. I'll text you. Go subscribe to Subtext so you can stay Locked On Packers.